If you want smooth power out of your serve, but it's just not happening, something feels tight, maybe muscled, or just the timing's off, then this is gonna be the video for you. Because in this video, I'm gonna show you a really simple drill called catching the drop. This drill is gonna help you develop smooth power on your serve, because so many players struggle with this part of their serve where they go up and it kind of does that. They don't have this nice dropping motion, and they don't know how to use that momentum from the drop to take that and create more power and pace in your serve. So what am I talking about? First of all, let's be clear, is when players generally go up and they get around here to their trophy post position and they don't really have a drop. It's kind of like they have a fold sometimes. So I see a lot of players like this where they're folding and it's really slow. Because of that, they try to muscle it some more, and it takes so much effort to hit a great serve. And the other style is where you do see players have a drop, but the timing's not there. They have a drop where they'll go like this, they'll drop it, and then they go up. And you can see how everything's not together. They have this drop, they built up the momentum a little bit, but then it stops, and then they go up with the legs, and it's like from the outside, they see the pros and they're like, oh, I'm close. But in this drill, I'm gonna show you how to get there. Because what we want is when you go into your trophy post position, and then you can use this to create the pace. And you see this action of what I call catching the drop. So let's talk about the first stage of this drill to start working on catching the drop. What it means to catch the drop is first we have to get a good dropping position or a good trophy post position. So what this means, and where I see a lot of mistakes, is that generally you see this type of elbow position when they get into their trophy post position. Now, sometimes you may see this, but I think this causes a lot of issues. And what I mean by this is that when we try to drop, look what happens. It's very stiff because it's not able to drop. And if you're able to drop here, it kind of folds and drops, which doesn't give you a nice runway, compared to if we can get at least a 90-degree angle, or sometimes a little bit more, that when I'm ready to drop with my elbow, look my racket does, it drops, okay? It creates momentum, where if my racket's out here and my elbow drops, it kind of pinches my shoulder and it can't go back. So the very first thing we want to do in this drill is make sure what I get to, or think of, is getting to the drop position. So what I want you to do is practice here and coming up. And freeze, go through the whole motion, and then check to make sure you're at least in a 90-degree angle. Now, a lot of times what happens is we just don't get there. And so if you have that, I want you to think of almost like squeezing your bicep. Now, here's the thing. We don't want it all the way in here, but we definitely want at least a 90-degree angle. So I like to almost think about like if you're like showing the guns off, that you're gonna pull your elbow into this position, okay? The other part of this position is noticing how it's up, okay, and it's not close to my body, because we don't want to pull it into this position, because again, if we try to drop with that elbow, it's stuck on the body. So that's the first drill and the first phases of making sure you catch the drop. The second phase is making sure the drop is hitting your back. Now, I think a lot of coaches sometimes use this where they tell players to scratch their back, and this is a great position that we want to get into, but the problem with it just starting here, if you're trying to develop more smooth power, is that you've already expended your momentum. Now, I've used this drill like here to have players work on getting to the spot and feeling it, but then what we want to do after we get there is show them how to get in this drop in a smooth manner. So now, the next part of this drill is making sure when we get up here, all I want you to do is take your arm and your elbow and relax. Now, yes, you're gonna relax like this, and you're like, Kevin, it's not going anywhere. It's because we have to not only relax, but pull my elbow towards the sky a little bit, or the butt of the racket towards the sky. So you can see how the butt of the racket is facing down, my elbow's facing this way. But if I relax and pull it up, look what happens. As I pull my elbow up and relax, the racket drops, and it's almost in back scratching position, so it can touch my back. And so from here, what we wanna do is practice going up, and look what happens. I'm going up to this first drill position, and then here I just want to pull my elbow up, and what will happen is you'll have the butt of the racket facing straight up, and so that's your checkpoint, where I'm going first position, second position, and by that second position it's going to drop. Again, we want to make sure first position, second position. If you're having trouble getting this position, more than likely it's because of the first position, meaning you're going here, and you can see how because of the elbow angle I can't drop it, whereas if it's closer, as my elbow goes up, the racket then drops. So that's the thing you want to double check to make sure you can get to these two positions. So we're going to go up and here and just stop. And you can see also how I'm very loose and relaxed. And this is going to be really important to make sure, boom, loose and relaxed. You can almost see how my racket wanted to go up on its own because it has this dropping momentum. What we want to avoid is tension. We're going here and we're like almost like, ugh. You can see how there's no movement in my racket compared to going here and It's almost like a pendulum dropping, and that's what we want because we want to keep that momentum of the drop. The next part is we need to start catching the drop, okay? And now you see where the name comes from, meaning that we're gonna catch the drop by right before the racket would potentially hit my back. I wanna use my hip and pull it forward. Now, there's gonna be a couple things going on here. It will depend on your stance. If you have more of a open type stance here, your hip's not gonna wanna turn that much. So you wanna definitely position where your hip's slightly back here, or when you're going up, you're coiling. Now, what that does is when I go into this position, you can see how I've turned my chest to the camera and I drop. If I don't let it hit my chest and I turn my hip before the racket hits my back, look what happens if I'm relaxed. The racket keeps going. And so this is where we've worked on the first two positions. Instead of letting it drop and then turn, we want right there, boom, I'm catching the drop. I'm catching the momentum of the drop and sending it around, compared to where I see some players, they get stuck and it's like here and here. You can see that kind of pausing action of boom and then turn, and then the racket needs more work. And so now we're gonna put it together where we're just gonna catch the drop. I'm not gonna hit the ball, but I'm gonna catch the drop and send my racket right back up. So I'm gonna go up, catch the drop, okay? And I'm doing it with the ball so I can work on my timing. So I'm going up, catch the drop. And notice how as I'm catching the drop, up, catch the drop. The racket never pauses. It comes down, I take the energy or the momentum from the drop and I send it back up and around. And this is gonna be the third phase of this drill to make sure you have this. The final phase of catching the drop is making sure we have the right rotation. And in the beginning, it's totally fine that when you catch the drop, what'll happen is your shoulders tend to rotate in this fashion, meaning they rotate this way. Okay, almost like a baseball player or pitcher throwing the ball. But what we want to do in tennis is rotate our shoulder up to the ball. Another way of thinking about this is how you would do a cartwheel. If I'm going to do a cartwheel, I'm going to go this way. I'm not going to go this way. That would be a bad cartwheel and you'd wind up on the ground. So we're going to do this exact same drill, but as we start catching the drop, I'm going to send my shoulder up, which is also going to send my elbow up. And so you can really tell as I drop and send this up, it's like I'm doing a cartwheel versus if I'm sending it around. And so you really want to pay attention to your elbow. When you're catching the drop, is your elbow traveling level to your shoulder or is it going higher than your shoulder? And so again, this drill, we're going to complete it now, is catch the drop and send the elbow over. Catch the drop and send the elbow over. You can see how everything's very fluid. Send the elbow over. And now we can start implementing using the ball. And so all we want to do is just incorporate everything we're doing. Catch the drop, send the elbow forward. Catch the drop, send the elbow forward. Catch the drop, send the elbow forward. And in the beginning, I recommend this. When you're hitting the ball, at first, don't worry about the target, because the moment you start thinking about the racket facing the target, you're gonna forget about all this. Go ahead and just get used to hitting a couple, so it should be smooth. You should feel like, man, it doesn't take that much effort because everything's timed, so you have smooth power. And there's not this disjointed kind of like making it work. Everything is flowing. Now, one quick tip, that if you find yourself doing this and you're catching the drop, but you're, oh, I did it on purpose, good job. I'll do it one more time, see if I can, oh yeah. If you find yourself hitting the frame, that's just a message from the ball saying you need to wait longer before you catch the drop. So it means slow down before we catch the drop, because what's happening is the ball's not in our strike zone. Now we start thinking about the racket face. And so here, even if I'm not gonna really use my feet to jump, I can still go here and catch the drop. Here and catch the drop. You can see how it's smooth. Now you're probably saying, okay, what, you said smooth power. Well, where the power comes in is the smoother you are and the faster you catch the drop, you're gonna use that momentum to send it up to contact. And you can see how I'm starting to develop a bigger, smoother serve. Now, yes, there are areas where now we wanna work on the pronation, and if you wanna know about that and how to implement that in your serve to even take the power to the next level, make sure you watch this video because it's gonna explain exactly how to do that.